It's finally Friday.
It's Friday, Friday.
Thank God it's
All right, welcome to the Preakness edition of the Friday Show, brought to you by the MASH series. We'll talk about that in a minute. And we'll also talk about the Preakness, of course. I'm Scott Jagow, along with Ray Paulick. But first, Ray, I thought it was important that we talk about a big development in the gambling industry this week with the Supreme Court striking down that federal law from 1992 that essentially prohibited states from allowing sports betting. That's gone. And the states, some of them are starting to rush into this. What are your thoughts about how this is going to affect the racing industry in the long run?
Well, it's interesting that the Supreme Court case was actually brought and started out because the New Jersey Thoroughbred Horsemen's Association wanted sports gambling at Monmouth Park, and I think they're the ones that filed the original lawsuit. So it's interesting that a racing entity wanted sports gambling. I don't think overall this is going to be that good for horse racing. It brings more competition. Yes, some of it will be at the racetrack, like at Monmouth Park. They're planning to start on Memorial Day, but it's more competition, and some of the big companies in the business, TVG, Twin Spires, the ADW companies, and maybe some racetracks will benefit. Overall, I don't see how this is going to really help purses or help horse owners.
Well, I think the one thing we all kind of realize is that you can't see this as a threat, though, because there's only one way to look at it, as an opportunity. Otherwise, it is a threat. So we talked to a lot of people are talking about this in the business. Many of them are here. So here's a sample of some thoughts on this week's Supreme Court ruling and what it might mean going forward.
If sports betting is going to be legalized and you're in the gambling business, you have to be a partner, you have to be a player in that. You cannot be in a situation where somebody else is competing against you. I mean, that's, quite frankly, the biggest hit that racing has taken historically, were the states going into business against their own racing industry with the lottery. And we've seen it time and time again, casino gaming. And so racing needs to be a player in sports betting. To me, it's an opportunity to bring people to our facilities and to cross-pollinate or whatever, to get people who would bet on the NFL or whatever sports betting allows to bet on the horses. I think there's a natural fit there. I'm not so much, I'm somewhat sanguine about how much revenue it's going to bring to the business, but we need to, it's going to force the tracks to improve their facilities, to make them attractive for people to want to come, and it's going to bring people into our building, and I think it will interest them in our sport. We simply cannot be in a position where it's competing against us.
You know, anywhere you can make money, then I think you need to step out of the box and take a shot. The big part of us as horsemen is going to be able to get legislated for us to get a piece of it. That's the big key.
And that might be difficult.
That's going to be difficult.
The big difference is that sports wagering is going to have such a big push with television and the NFL and the NBA and those big markets, in the big markets with television, that we're still going to have to fight and claw our way. But let's get the message out there that our gambling game is far superior to that gambling game. I should know, I've played both.
And what makes it superior?
Well, I mean, I can sit down now and probably find a 5-to-1 shot somewhere running in the next couple hours at a racetrack that I feel pretty sure is going to win. If I'm going to garner 5-to-1 in betting sports, I'm going to have to put together 3 winners against the spread. That's a little tougher than picking just one horse.
I really like Johnny D's point about horse race betting being a better game than sports betting. When you talk about how much you have to put down to win one game versus getting a 5-to-1 or a 10-to-1 on a horse in one race. So I think the important thing for racing is to sell itself in the wake of this.
Not only that, but I think the pricing is important too. We don't know where sports betting is going to be priced. We know where racing is priced, and I think it's too high. I would like to see states, especially those that are getting slot machine money for purses and for operations, get a little more competitive with their pricing. Let's face it, it's too high to take them.
Amen. What do you think? In the end, is sports gambling a friend or foe to horse racing? We have a poll on our website, PaulickReport.com. Let us know what you think. Okay, Ray, let's talk about the Preakness. It looks like, unless there is a dramatic shift in the forecast, we're going to have a sloppy track once again like we did in the Derby. We saw what Justify did on that day, and he's done it before in the slop. So that's obviously not going to go against him. Is there anything that will? Is there any horse in this field that can actually beat him?
Well, it's a horse race, isn't it? I mean, anything can happen. We know that. I think Good Magic ran a really big race in the Kentucky Derby. He's the champion 2-year-old. He's in good form. Chad Brown decided to bring him back after 2 weeks, which is something he doesn't normally do. And I just, you know, he's a good horse. So anything can happen. He's 3-1 in the morning line. I think it'd be a little short of that. But I kind of lean toward Good Magic with a mild upset.
I can see that. When you see Justify in person, once again, you know, 2 weeks after the Derby, and he still looks like a monster, and everybody's still talking about him, I find it hard to believe that anyone's going to beat him, and I think he could run away with this race. You know, the way he kind of glides, he's going to get probably into the lead, and then I just think, I don't see anybody running him down, even Good Magic. One long shot in here that I really am keen on is Sporting Chance. I think he's going to run a big race. If he runs in a straight line, which he usually doesn't, he's all over the place. But when he runs straight, in the Pat Day Mile, he had a terrible trip. Wide, he had all kinds of problems early. So I think he's going to run a big one, and I definitely would put him in the exotics, probably underneath Justify.
All right, well, we've got the match series that starts on Friday with the Black Eyed Susan Stakes card. There's 2 races on Friday, 2 on Saturday. We talked to Alan Foreman, who created the match series, to explain a little bit why they actually brought it back. This is something that happened in the 1990s, and he decided to bring it back.
Well, the series was a tremendous success when it ran from 1997 to 2002. It was embraced by the horsemen. The tracks loved it. We did innovative things, and I think most people were surprised that the series ended. We had some internal political issues that tend to dominate racing, and the series had to end at that point, and it's been very difficult to bring it back. The Mid-Atlantic region has been working very closely collectively for the past 5 years on uniformity, on issues related to the health and welfare of the horse, and we've had everybody at the table. And I just felt the things are in a pretty good place in the region right now. They've improved, that it was a good time to try to translate the successes we're having on the regulatory side, working together, to try to move that to the racing side, and maybe try to get the tracks working together to coordinate races, coordinate divisions, and start talking about things on the racing side that we could coordinate. So slowly but surely it came together, but the best part was watching the racing directors and the horsemen's organization directors working together to design the series, pick the divisions, agree to protect big event days at each of the tracks, move races, agree not to compete against match races, and it fell into place to the point where everybody said, let's go.
You know, it's a good idea, and I really hope that this thing takes off and does well, because the cooperation that it creates is something positive in this industry. We were just talking about the sports gambling issue, one of the many issues this industry has to tackle, and the best way to do it is to cooperate. Okay, are you ready for the Preakness?
I'm as ready as I can be. I went out and got my emergency poncho. I mean,
I got mine too.
It's going to be a wet weekend. Let's hope the forecasters were wrong, as they were Derby week.
Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Friday Show, presented by the Match Series. Thanks for joining us, and enjoy the Preakness.